Cal Forever here, and I was just reading this article about the Parkland school shooting, um, and apparently two students took their lives, according to this article. And then there was this video in the article that was talking about grief. And this is what I was saying about the shooting before. And this one struck very personal to me. Like, I had a dream and like really felt the pain of it, and it sucked. And grief comes in 5 stages. One of those being anger. So the shooter was in the grieving process, and the emotional level of our of teenagers and even adults, it's so misunderstood, because in the article they're talking about mental health, and it's really not about mental health. Actually, it's about the emotions and emotional healing. So this is kind of where Western medicine gets it wrong, is like the consciousness and our emotions are pretty much thought or believed to be coming from the brain. And that's really not true. And, you know, emotions come from the heart. They come from all parts of our body. You know, the neurons in the gut, which is being called the second brain. I really do believe the first brain is the heart, then the second brain is the gut, then the third brain is this. So it's not about mental health, medicating, and this or that. Sometimes it's appropriate to medicate for a very short period of time, but medications over a long period of time will cause more problems, especially mental and emotional problems, than if they weren't taking the drug. And this has been like proven time and time again. So the shooter in this instance, I think he was on medications and he was going through the grieving process. But instead of seeing it as an emotional healing, which is what grieving is, it's the process of letting go, release, and healing, right? It's just like, oh, you're mentally ill. It's like, it shouldn't, the grieving process takes time, and it never happens in the same order. So you can't rush it. You can't medicate it. You don't medicate the grieving process. Oh, you're depressed. If you're experiencing depression, you are grieving something. You are like depression's normal, and even though how bad it sucks. And once you realize that it's grief and emotional healing, and you consciously work towards healing that part of yourself, it doesn't have to be a major part of your life. And that's what major depression is this misunderstood emotional body, emotional healing, and energetic balance and clearing. And it's not really a mental illness, I don't believe. And people are probably gonna say, oh, no, like, I don't believe the body really fucks up. And I think a lot of mental illness is related to poor diet, not eating healthy, not exercising healthy, the way people live their lives, especially when it comes to like a 9 to 5 kind of like work outlet, in not getting enough sleep and stress. I think that's what really leads to those imbalances, because our society's imbalanced when it comes to the human's biological circadian rhythm, natural flow. And no wonder why people are having all these issues, especially in America. The food we eat, and if you don't break mentally or emotionally, it's gonna show up around your waist and in your arteries, right? So to get back to the article, the school shooting, this individual, the shooter, was going through a grieving process from, I think both of his parents died, and I believe he was medicated, which just it makes medication will make the situation worse because it messes with your body, it messes with your hormones, it messes with your brain in unnatural ways, but also it suppresses it. It's like people self medicate, like alcohol. That suppresses the emotions, and then you don't feel it, and then you're just stuffing it down, and then it comes out in anger, and so why is this still an issue in the collective with two of these students committing suicide? You don't call that mental illness. You realize, oh, that's emotional pain, emotional healing. That individual is under a lot of pain from what they experienced, and they're going through the grieving process. And so it's causing humanity to heal and to look at these issues. And I don't like how they're looking at it the wrong way. Like, oh, mental illness. No, that like person experienced some trauma. Let's not label it like, let's not call PTSD a mental illness. Let's call it like, what's a better, more accurate way of looking at it? It's an emotional thing, and you're trying to process and come to terms with that. And it takes time to heal from things. The shadow doesn't heal overnight. And these things are happening to try to wake us up out of our unconsciousness, where we're not paying attention to our children, and the way we live our society is causing issues in people. People are being neglected. People are like not being taken care of correctly from the heart. That's really what it is the heart. People aren't being loved. And I've someone with high functioning autism, I've been on a lot of medications, and they don't work. They don't. They don't. They make things worse. And most of the doctors that I've experienced, they don't care. Like this one doctor, I've had a few, they're very arrogant. They're playing with chemicals and drugs and giving you oftentimes way more than you need. And it just creates a biological chemical imbalance mess in your body. Whereas you actually don't have, mental illness is not a chemical imbalance. So the body knows how to grieve. The heart knows how to grieve. But when we get our mind in the way of that, and our belief structures, especially societal things and physical things we have to do in society, like go to work, it's like, you need to not go to work. You need to like sit in a cave and meditate and process and grieve and walk out in nature. And then once you go through that darkness and erode those emotions away, then the renewal comes, and then brightness of day, and da, da, da. And we do this every year, in winter. And that's the other end of the cycle. And life's impermanent, and there's nothing wrong with this process. It's just that our society and our beliefs and our fears get in the way of it. And we're like conditioned to think that it's wrong to cry, to grieve, to still be grieving, and like it's wrong to have feelings or anxiety. It's like, well, you're anxious because the world's kind of fucked up right now, even though there's so many beautiful things in the world. Like our society and the things that we're doing to each other are messed up. And if you're feeling that, you're tuned into the novosphere. Maybe a lot of people with emotional issues, or what you'd call mental illness, are just tuned into the collective consciousness and unconsciousness, and feeling and emotionally reacting to the state of the world. Why do you get panic attacks all the time? Like, I don't know. They just happen out of the blue. Well, maybe something shifted in the collective, And then could be ascension symptoms in the space weather health risks and stuff that cause a lot of like so-called health issues, mental health issues, And that is something that scientists have coined. Like, mental health issues are one of the biggest things when it comes to space weather, health risks, and cosmic rays, and solar flares, and also cardiac issues. So we need to wake up and stop distracting ourselves. And we need to do something about these issues in the world. Like, it's so simple. It really is simple. But what's kind of in the way of it is like people not wanting to take the responsibility of fixing these things. And we need enough people to do that, because if one person does it, like, no one's going to listen to them. They're not going to get anything. Like, we all have to do this together. And if we don't do it, we'll keep experiencing things like this in the collective to get us to wake up. So, we have to change. As a society, we have to change. And school shootings and big shootings are ways of getting us to change. I really do believe. And it may not be very clear, and I think a lot of it has to do with karma. There was a big one in New Zealand, and it's like, well, Muslims go into kill Christians all the time. Maybe I don't know. Like, I really do believe it's just like, pay attention, and this one in particular is pay attention to your children. And a year later, it's like becoming more and more prominent. Like, okay, we need to pay attention to our children. We need to pay attention to the mental health of our children, and like, why are our children in high school having mental issues? Because high school is stressful. College is even more stressful. And so we need to deal with this in elementary school. Before high school, we need to teach children to meditate, to do yoga, to do breath work, to take care of their emotional body, their emotional health, to learn the grieving process. And we've kind of ignored how important these things are, and they're so out of whack. And the way we live our lives and the way society is makes it out of whack. And so like I said, we need to change. Plain and simple. Some of these things are so simple. However, there's all this resistance and people not wanting to change. And then people that are really comfortable, like the king on the hill that has way more money and food than they need. And, why should I have to change my company, that's polluting the environment? Why should I have to change my company for the state of the people working and in their mental health? Like, I don't care. I just care about myself. That narcissism in society and the greed that's in the narrow-mindedness of it. It's very narrow-minded for pretty much rich old white men, on the most part, narrow-mindedly just caring about their reality and then handing their children a fucking mess. And I'm a millennial, and like, we've been handed a mess. We've been handed a mess. And we have more distractions than ever, especially with cell phones. So we've been handed a mess. And we want the rich old white man CEO to give up their shit and change. If they're still in freaking control over us. Oh, like, you need to work for me and work to the top. We don't want to participate in that. We're passionate about the environment. We're passionate about, creating amazing things, not just surviving in fear and becoming really rich and material. Maybe some millennials are, but, I'm a hard worker, I love working hard, but I love working hard for what I love and what's going to benefit the world. I'm not going to work hard for something that's bad for the environment. I'm a horticulturist. I went to college for horticulture, and I became a turf grass manager at a golf course. And like one day, I just kind of like, I was shaking. I don't know. Like I was going through a shift, and it's kind of, I guess I contributed to me being upset with, the superintendent, like throwing fertilizer all over the road, and then it goes to the canal, and it goes to the river, and then it creates algae bloom and chokes out the fish, and like, just so people can hit a little ball into a little white hole. Really? Are we gonna destroy the environment, or should we turn this giant golf course into a cool ass food forest, and feed the world and have healthy organic food instead of grocery stores with shitty, cheap processed food, and then people get really rich off of that, and the farmers don't get crap. I mean, that's how it is for the most part. Not with everything, but I worked my ass off. I got up at 5 every day. I got up at 3 o'clock, dying and going through a spiritual awakening, and still having to go to work. It sucked. Like, that was the most stressful thing ever. And it's like, we're not meant to do this. This isn't fun. We don't have to do things that are pretty much worthless to us just to fucking get by. We don't have to settle for this. And the millennial generation is saying no. And hopefully the previous generation will wake up to that. Like in the 50s, mental health was like something you were so quiet about. Like, it was such a bad like thing to be mentally ill. And it's like so many people were, and it's not mental illness, it's the emotional state, and it's a result of how we're living and what we're ignoring. We're ignoring love and loving each other, and nurturing and taking care of ourselves. So it's becoming more and more accepted. And I hate the mental health thing, because I hate how people see mental health like it's just labeling and boxing and compartmentalizing people, and it's like the brain's very neuroplastic. It can change. And we need to not medicate it. We need to see it that for what it is. It's a result of our society. It's a result of the changes happening to the planet and the magnetosphere and the energy coming in. It's a result of humans mutating, and we are like, it's a result of our opening hearts and becoming empathic and feeling one another. So yeah, this is kind of a long video. I just kind of want to end it now. Just like, it's spurred off, beyond the school shooting, and I don't like talking about the school shooting. If I was a teenager right now, I'd say fuck school. Screw this. Not like screw education, but screw like going to school, and like I'd be so anxious. I wouldn't be able to do schoolwork after shit like this happens in the collective. I'd be terrified. Right? We need to do something about this. And I'm from Nebraska, Republican. I grew up shooting assault rifles and things like that. Like, I can't stand guns anymore. I can't. Too much pain. And like, I understand. Let's make them illegal. And I do understand we have the right to bear arms, and it protects us against the government, but we are the government. The military is our friends and family. Why do we have to protect ourselves from our friends and family? The military doesn't have to blindly follow orders that don't make sense to them all the time, right? There can be a revolt. There can be an awakening. Like, no, I don't think we should go to the Middle East. I don't think we should do that. I think we need to stay home and take care of our situation. and take care of the wars going on in our schools. You know, so Cal Forever here. This is kind of, I don't know, just my channeling today. Cal Forever. Peace.